Hooked on Life, the podcast, is a division of PN Entertainment Canada, inspiring innovation through entertainment.
The opinions expressed in Hooked on Life are for conversational purposes only. This podcast may also contain language that some may find offensive. Now, on to the show.
Hey, I'm Cindy Lynn. I'm a free spirit that is headed into my 50s with abandon. I was an artist who had a midlife break when I turned 37. I left a toxic marriage and moved across the country with 2 kids, no money, and no job. I decided to start life over again on my own terms. I found sobriety, learned to like myself, to show up for my friends and family, found a home in the corporate world, fell in love with my junior high school sweetie Shay. I practice saying yes every day and love being a badass.
And I'm Shane. Shaner. Or as my wife calls me, Shay Bear. I am British, and I came close to becoming an American, but I'm Canadian. I'm a musician who got lost in the lifestyle and sobered up years ago. I got married to my girlfriend from middle school, but don't worry, we were grown-ups by then. We travel a lot, we own property far, far away, and this podcast was her idea. With all that said, welcome to Hooked on Life.
You know that Bee Gees show that we watched a couple weeks ago on CNN?
Yeah.
It was good, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the looking back of their career.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny, there was a song that they played, and it wasn't a Bee Gees song, actually, and I cannot get it out of my head today.
Oh, no.
And I don't know if you even have any idea what song I'm going to reference.
Well, guess what? I won't.
They called it the death knell of disco, I think.
Okay. It was a song?
It was a song, and it was called Disco Duck.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Disco,
yeah.
Disco Duck. And there's like a little duck going...
Okay. I don't remember the duck sound, but I do remember the song.
I cannot get it out of my head.
Well, pump some Metallica later and you will probably forget it.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you for that little prescription.
Okay. Next patient, room 3.
Okay.
What seemed to be your problem today? Oh, Disco Duck too? Okay. Listen to some Metallica and fuck off.
Like, it's just amazing some of the weird shit that we grew up with, having to listen to and manage, and we just did it. We just danced to Disco Duck.
There was some good shit out there too, though. But
that's true.
I don't think we should bash our era of music, but whatever. That's just me.
Well, we're not going to bash 80s music. It was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay, should I start?
Would you?
Okay, because this is going down a whole rabbit hole that we don't need to go down.
Simon is already eating his sandwich and it's not even lunch yet. Let's get started.
God. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening from. We are the Shay Bear and Cindy Lynn, and we are totally bodaciously stoked to have you join us on this episode of Hooked on Life, the podcast.
Nice.
Really? That's all I get?
Well, what?
That's some pretty good fucking fanfare.
Was it? Okay.
Oh,
well,
so.
You said bodacious and burst-tastic
and
yeah.
Just trying to drum up some fun. That's all, dear.
I know, and I like that. I like that. I like that about you. You find excitement in podcasts.
Yeah.
So do I, but anyway. Speaking of excitement, we have some new listeners.
We do have some new listeners.
Like, what the hell? This is great.
So thrilled. You know, I wish they would interact with us more. I'd love to hear from people, love to hear what they like about the podcast. But yeah, I noticed that we have some listeners from Honduras.
Yeah. So we could say this. Gracias por unirte a nosotros.
Oh, sí. Muy bien.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. It's really great. Muchas gracias por todo. Yeah. So there you go. That's some good stuff. And our listeners are continually following us, which is fantastic. So we're very grateful for that. It would be great that people would reach out and contact us somehow, some way. I know we don't have letters anymore, but email us, contact us, send us our way. That would be great. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any suggestions for the show, send it to Simon or to us, and we will get our hands on it, or at least our eyes on it, and then we can at least see if we can add it to the show.
Well, and just talking about the evolution of the podcast, we have been discussing adding some questions, listener questions to the episodes. So if listeners have any questions, send those in and we will address them on our episodes.
Yeah. So how has everything been going? Okay.
Everything's been going great. While we're talking about the podcast, I do have one final business piece to bring up.
Okay.
Which is that we do have a GoFundMe page right now to raise some money for the podcast.
It's actually Indiegogo.
Right.
Yeah.
Man.
That's okay. It's all good.
I know.
It's all good. It's all the same, right?
It's all the same.
Yeah. So they can come and join us and assist us in any way they can if they want. Or I think we're trying to get some merchandise set up too. So yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to get some merchandise, trying to boost our marketing abilities a little bit, as well as upping our equipment game.
Yeah, and you know what? We're looking at T-shirts and hats and the typical, but we're also looking at baseball jerseys, which would be really awesome. I think we all like a good baseball, like a good proper baseball jersey with Hooked on Life on the front, which would be great. And we could maybe get it customized with someone's name on the back and a number. That would be fun too.
Yeah.
We're also looking at other options and other things that the global markets will offer. So yeah, come join us and come assist us and come wear our stuff. Can we say that?
I don't know, but this is getting so boring. So let's get back to some fun, shall we? Do you have anything fun to talk about today?
Yeah, I brought a friend.
You did?
I did. I brought her.
Yay. Shay Bear has a friend.
There you go. I was waiting for the patronizing. There you go. Good. Yeah, I have a good friend of mine that I haven't seen in a long, long time. We have kept in contact with each other, but we were friends. We were friends since we were, knee-high to a grasshopper. We were very young. I'm trying to think of, he was a year younger than me. Couple years younger than me. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're always the same age when we're kids, and we're still the same age together now. Yeah, he's a really good, dear friend. He has been very successful in his career, which is really awesome. And yeah, it'd be great to have him on. And he's a sports head too, right? Sports head.
What does that mean?
Well, it's not geek. It's head. It's like, yeah, you know, he has a lot of. He's a sports guy.
Okay, like bobblehead, but sports head.
Yeah, not really.
Is that a thing? Sports head? Is that an actual thing?
And this is going to make you very excited. He has his own show, and he has a lot of famous people on his show that you may know.
Really?
Yeah. Like, have you heard of Gary Sinise?
Not only do I know of Gary Sinise, I have actually had my own encounter with Gary Sinise.
Really?
Lovely man.
There you go.
Who else?
Fucking great actor.
Amazing actor.
Really great actor.
Founder of the Steppenwolf Theater Company in Chicago.
Yeah. I think, other than Tom Hanks, I think he was the one that really did it for me for Forrest Gump.
Oh, yeah. The journey of his character is phenomenal.
Yeah. You know, the CGI and Zemeckis and all his designing and all that is awesome too. But yeah, his acting was just spectacular. Anyway.
You know what it is? It's that one scene where he drags Forrest off the bed in the rehabilitation center.
Yeah.
And confesses that it should have been him that died.
Yeah, I remember it's the same moment. It's frozen in time for me in my head when he takes the soft ice cream cone that Forrest got him, and he just put it in the pot, the toilet pot.
Yeah.
Like so disgraced with everything. It's so amazing. Yeah, he's a fucking great actor. Okay, so he's a guest on our guest show, but he also has Bonnie Hunt on. She's a great actress.
Fantastic.
And I have to tell you, I think I don't know how old she is, but she looks fucking fantastic. Mm-hmm. Like, really looks great. Anyway, Gary Cole. Now, I know Gary Cole from The Office, but anyway, yeah, it's great. And
Office Space, you mean?
Office Space, yeah. What was I saying? The Office.
You love that movie.
Office Space?
You just love that movie. I had never seen it before I met you.
Yeah, it really drives home for me. Yeah, our guest on this episode just had Billy Corgan on.
Cool.
From the Smashing Pumpkins, yeah. And of course, they're all talking about one specific thing, which is the Cubs, the Chicago Cubs. Now, I'm sure you would know, because you are a baseball fan, that when we watch Chicago baseball, who do we think of?
Oh, the White Sox, of course.
And because
they're in the American League.
There you go. And we spent a lot of time in the American League with the Jays, right? So,
although when I think of the Cubs, what I think of specifically is Wrigley Field.
Oh, right.
It's very sort of one of those big historic ball fields. I think we should start a GoFundMe for you and I.
Or Indiegogo.
or Indiegogo, thank you.
Oh my God.
I'll get there. For us to travel around the United States.
There you go. Good.
Visiting all of the big ball fields.
Yeah, that's good.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
Yeah, everybody just give us your money and then we can just do shit.
And we don't need to sit like in VIP seats. Like, I'm cool to sit wherever.
Yeah, we don't want to stand though.
I don't want to stand. No. I do want a seat. Okay. And you are 50 now, so we need to pace you.
Yeah.
But that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Bucket list.
For sure, yeah. Now, they were the Stockings. Yeah, the Chicago Cubs were called the Stockings. That's a fact. Don't laugh at me.
Gee, I wonder why they changed their name. Hi there. Yeah. We're the Toronto Toe Rings.
No, Toe Rings?
I don't know.
No. They were called the White Stockings. This is before everything else, right?
Okay.
And we're talking way, way, way back. 1889. There you go. They were called the White Stockings, and then they decided to change their name to the Cubs. There you go. They have had a very struggling franchise.
They have struggled in their franchise?
Oh, yes, for sure. For sure, for a long time. They have won the World Series a couple times, just recently, a few years ago, but yeah, it's been a tough sledding for them, unlike the Yankees. Anyway, yeah, that's it. How's that? Good times, right? So why don't we take a short break and then we'll get our guest set up because it would be great to see him. Are you looking forward to... Have you met him? You haven't met him?
No, I haven't.
Okay. His name is Brigham Avery.
Got a great name.
Yeah, Brigham Avery.
We'll see if he lives up to his name.
Him and I were both in the Young Canadians together for a long time. His grandfather, Randy Avery, started the Young Canadians in the Calgary Stampede.
Okay.
And his grandfather, Randy Avery, and Peter Lougheed, former premier of Alberta, were also very good friends, which I think we might get into that. I'm not sure. But they were all together in friendships in a small world, of course, right?
Can I just very quickly for our listeners explain when you say Young Canadians what that means? So in Calgary, they have something every July called the greatest outdoor show on earth.
That's right.
And it is called the Calgary Stampede.
An exhibition. Yeah.
Right. Calgary Exhibition and Stampede.
That's right.
And as part of that, they have a big rodeo. They have chuck wagon races. They have rides.
Starts the first Friday of July every year, and it goes for 10 days.
Goes for 10 days, and it's world famous.
Yeah.
Not only that, here is a little known fact. The most babies born in Calgary are born 9 months after the Calgary Stampede.
Yahoo.
Yahoo indeed. Yippity-ki-yay. Anyways, as part of the Grandstand show, which is a big show that happens every night of Stampede, there is this troupe called the Young Canadians, and they're massive. They range in age from, I think, like 6 to 17.
Yeah, they weren't massive when we were there, but yes, they have certainly got bigger.
It's very big, and they put on a phenomenal show.
Thank you.
Really is a phenomenal show.
Yeah.
And they have big guests come in. I remember when I was growing up, it was like André Philippe Gagnon.
Sure, I was in that year.
And the Irish Rovers.
I was in that year.
Wow. And didn't you say Ricky Schroeder was there once?
I met Ricky Schroeder.
Oh
Rick Schroeder. Yeah,
I can't believe you met Ricky Schroeder. I was in his fan club, you know.
He wasn't in the show. He was just in the audience.
I had a button that said, I love the Ricker.
There you go. Shit.
Oh my God.
Gosh, Alan Thicke.
Yeah, nice.
Peggy Lee. Yeah, some real
big
heavies.
Names.
Really heavies, yeah.
And then huge fireworks display.
Boxcar Willie. You know Boxcar Willie?
I know the name.
Jerry Reed, the Smokey and the Bandit, he did the theme song to that. He was a very famous country singer, but...
Can you sing it?
No.
Come on.
Trucking. Something about trucking.
What?
Yeah, there was something about trucking.
That's very disappointing. Hopefully Simon can find a little sample of that song that's better than you talking about trucking.
Oh, okay, well, you're lost. Anyway. Yeah, so Brigham Avery, yeah, he's worked at Disneyland for a long time. That's where we separated. He went south and I went east. Yeah, subsequently he has his own shows now. So he has Under the Golden Dome, talking about the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, which I'm a huge fan of. Of course, I have a couple of memorabilia around the house here, which is pretty kick-ass. And he also has Hollywood and Ivy, which talks about the Wrigley Field and the Cubs, more like talking about the Cubs than Wrigley Field. But yeah, with all the very famous guests. And of course, Joe Mantegna is his cohort on the show too, which is really awesome. So let's take a short break. Sorry.
He also has a comedy show as well called Beyond the Headliner, and he brings in comedians to chat. And I believe he is a comedian himself. He is a podcaster himself.
Yeah.
And he is the owner of Brigham Avery Productions.
That does everything that you can think of in L.A. There you go. He's based out of L.A. We have a lot of guests coming out of L.A. So
we do. What is that saying? Are we moving to L.A.? Dear God.
Well, I could live there. It's hot. It's a lot of traffic and a lot of smog, I think. But they have a beautiful beach at Huntington Beach.
Okay, I'm all about the beach.
Yeah, me too. Okay, let's take a short break, and then we'll get him dialed in, and we'll talk life as a Gen Xer.
Awesome.
Good? All right, good. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to
Hooked on Life.
This portion of today's podcast is brought to you by Playhouse North Acting Studios. Founded by Cindy McCauley in 2004, they offer professional-level training that provides students with a competitive edge that's needed in today's industry. They provide the tools necessary to build a solid foundation, find freedom and confidence in the actor's approach to the work. Using the Meisner technique, they are committed to a positive setting for students to train and cultivate a lifelong practice through a professional approach. For more information on upcoming sessions, contact them at playhousenorthstudios@gmail.com.
Hey listener, yes you, I'm talking to you. Are you sitting there wondering how you can be a part of Hooked on Life? We are looking for corporations and people, yes people just like you, who want to help sponsor our little podcast. There's so much we can do together. If you are hooked to help, contact us right now at hookedonlifethepodcast@gmail.com and in the subject line say, I want to help. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Podbean. And we want to thank you for continuing to support Hooked on Life.
All right, and we're back, and I'm going to lead us into today's interview, if that's okay with you, Shay Bear.
Yeah, of course, for sure.
You can go and primp yourself and make sure that you are looking good for your friend.
I don't need to primp nothing. I'm just who I am. I am who I am is all that I am. Do you know who said that?
Popeye.
That's right.
Popeye the Sailor Man.
That's right.
Amen. Okay, so today we are very excited to have on our show Brigham Avery, who you had met many, many years ago as part of the Young Canadians. He made his way. He ventured into Disneyland and worked with that corporation for many years before venturing out to start his own production company, Brigham Avery Productions, where he has produced and starred in several radio shows, first being Under the Golden Dome, which focuses on Notre Dame.
Fighting Irish, let's go.
Hollywood and Ivy, which is a show that focuses not necessarily on the Cubs. Well, I guess it does focus on the Cubs.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it brings in some of the biggest fans of the Cubs.
And the biggest names, yeah.
As well as, I believe it's called Beyond the Headlines, which is a show that focuses on highlighting some of our great comedians.
And he too is a comedian. He's pretty funny. This is going to be interesting for sure.
He is a stand-up comedian. He is a podcaster. He is a producer. He is an entrepreneur and a very successful businessman. We welcome today Brigham Avery.
Hey, you got me. Oh, you guys look great.
Hey, Brigham. Yes. All right. Brigham, before we get started, I want to just introduce you. I don't think you've met Cindy before. Brigham, this is my wife, Cindy Lynn. And Cindy Lynn, this is my boyfriend, Brigham.
Hi, how are you? Boyfriend here, and we're going to Key West. Hey now, we're in Key West. Oh my God.
I'm not sure I want to be associated with the two of you.
It's going to be a good day.
Welcome, Brigham. It's very nice to meet you.
Such a pleasure to meet, Cindy. How are you? But your husband, every time I see him, I realize just one of my favorite people. You know what I mean? And it's great to meet you as well and all that. Your wife's a big Joe Mantegna fan. That's great. He sends his regards and all that good stuff. So we our next episode, our episode debuted last night, and we got Billy Corrigan next May the 4th. So onward and upward. But yes, lovely to meet you.
Okay, Brigham, before we get started, I want to just say miss you. And thank you for being on the show today.
Totally. Very glad. Miss you very much, buddy.
Man, it's been a long time. And, you know, you and I had spent a lot of quality time, our formative years together in the Young Canadians. And your grandfather, Randy Avery, founded the Young Canadians, right?
He did. So that was founded the Young Canadians. He was a dear friend, and the man that really took a liking to my grandfather, really was near and dear. And really the reason we know each other is because Peter Lougheed, the great premier of the province of Alberta in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, really loved my grandpa. And he gave him a lot of opportunity, and really was one of his big champion of his in becoming the director of entertainment for the Calgary Stampede, the Grandstand Show, moving in 1972 and, creating what we became to know, Shane, as the greatest outdoor show on earth, star attraction. I'm pimping it out, of course, but sorry, I didn't mean to use the word pimp, but I'm promoting it up. But yes, that's what it was, and that's what I believe it always will be.
Yeah, you were at ground zero with the Young Canadians. I mean, with your dad and your grandpa and the family all in there too, which is really amazing. What was that like?
Well, it was pretty amazing just being there and being a part of that, and being his grandson and being his son, and walking around and just seeing everything that developed. And I felt a lot of gratitude, and I was felt as though I really got to stand on the shoulders of giants in a lot of ways. And I kind of feel like I'm kind of a combination of both my dad and my grandpa, and what I'm doing now with producing and radio and television and everything I do in sports broadcasting and stand-up comedy, and just the passion for production and the passion for quality entertainment was forged by them. And the example they gave was I can't imagine, specifically my dad growing up, the example of just them being professionals was something that nobody could ask for a better example in any way.
So, Brigham, you left Calgary and moved to LA to work at Disney. Is that correct?
Yeah, I worked for Disneyland in the mid-'90s. I worked there from 1995 until 1999. God, I'm dating myself. And then I worked for the Anaheim Sports Incorporated, which is a combination of the Mighty Ducks and the Anaheim Angels, now the Los Angeles Angels of Orange County, Anaheim / Buena Park, Anaheim, San Diego. No, they're the LA Angels of Anaheim now. But so those two teams, the Ducks and the Angels, are who own them, and I worked in the entertainment division for them for 2 years. And so I've been here on and off since '95, and it's I am certainly a West Coast California guy, and really love being here. It's it's people move, but they come back because there's just so much to offer.
Okay, Brigham. So here's what I want to know. What characters did you play at Disney?
I can't talk.
You can't? Well, come on.
All your favorites. If you're a woman, all your favorites. And what that means is Tigger. I was Tigger. And so I've never met a woman that doesn't like Tigger, or, that does not love Tigger. So Tigger, I was the Green Army Man from Toy Story. And what else? Goofy for a while. And that Tweedledee and Tweedledum. So kind of well-versed and eclectic in the world of Disney characters.
What was it like working at Disneyland? Was it indeed the best place on earth to work?
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you, just a lot of beautiful people, really a lot of beautiful people, and great memories, and a lot of great friends. And it was a shame. It was not unlike Young Canadians in a lot of ways. So that kind of camaraderie, that kind of fun. And in essence, it is a young person. It's a great place. I would say go work there for a year. And then maybe move on. But it was an amazing place to work when I worked there, and I have amazing memories. So in every way. Yep.
So Hollywood and Ivy, your show, focuses a lot on the Cubs and Wrigley, but I'm not going to say that we're not fans of the Cubs, but we see a lot more Chicago White Sox because we're here in Toronto, right?
But they're similar sports cities, though, Shane. Similar because the passion of the fans. I think Blue Jay fans are very underrated as being passionate. And it's not like they're not anymore, but quite frankly, they haven't had a lot to cheer for in a long time. But the 92, 93 Blue Jays, the teams all through the 80s that went to the playoffs, that fan base, they used to draw $2 million a year. And I think Toronto and Chicago have a lot in common as far as passionate fans. And of course, the Maple Leafs, much like the Cubs in many ways, as far as not being successful in the postseason, when they have this amazing fan base and this history, and the whole city's waiting for them to be good, but they just can't seem to be productive when it means most. So I think Toronto and Chicago are very similar in sports cities.
How did Hollywood and Ivy, your show about the Cubs, how did that all come about?
I had a show called KBS Live, and Joe Montaigne is a dear friend of mine. I've known him for many years, and he had a place in Burbank called Taste Chicago, and we broadcast there live right before the Cubs went on their run to win the World Series in 2016. And in essence, and in actuality and factuality, I like to say that we helped the Cubs do it more than anybody else, because Joe came on as Fat Tony. We had this proclamation. And so in that moment, when I talked to Joe Montana, that is, just about the Cubs, about being a Cub fan, and about working in entertainment and show business, I realized the chemistry was there. Not unlike Lipton's Actors Studio, you guys, where he talks to entertainers about being actors. You can talk to entertainers about being baseball fans, specifically Cub fans, because the passion and the pain we all share. And you just realize Chicago is the third biggest city in the country. So many people from Chicago, popular like Gary Sinise, Bill Murray, Vince Vaughn, a lot of those guys. So the wheels started turning and realized that could be a very, very successful nuance to what we already had, because of the passion and the pain, and what Cub fans share together is loving the Cubs and loving the team.
What else is happening with you with your other shows and your productions that you're going on right now?
Well, that's kind of that's the big thing going right now, Hollywood and Ivy. I have a Notre Dame show on NESN, which is New England Sports Network. So that's a Notre Dame football show I host with a guy named Steve Berline, who is a pretty successful quarterback at Notre Dame and then in the NFL, and Max Redfield, who played defense at Notre Dame. So that's called Inside the Golden Dome. That's on NESN in Boston, but that's also on DirecTV, just like Hollywood and Ivy, so you can kind of catch them all over. And then I've got a stand-up comedy podcast with a guy named Dwayne Perkins. I also do stand-up comedy, and Dwayne Perkins is a very successful veteran comedian. It's called Are You Ready for Your Headliner? So we've had Tom Clark, John DeResta, Brian Holtzman. We're going to have Eric Griffin on from Workaholics, Earl Skeikel, Joey Diaz, a lot of them. It's called Are You Ready for Your Headliner? And it's everything you wanted to know about your favorite comedian, personally and professionally. So those are kind of the things I juggle around, and those are my my kids, I guess, my grandstand shows, as you might say.
So Brigham, we have had an opportunity to watch quite a few of your episodes, and I must say I'm really enjoying it. I find the production value is really high. I think you're a great interviewer, and I find it really fascinating to listen to actors and entertainers talk about something other than their profession, other than acting.
Right? Yeah. And you can get them to talk about themselves. They'll just go on and on about themselves. You can get them to talk about themselves sitting at the bleachers at a baseball stadium, and that could be just as enticing and as interesting. So yes, absolutely.
One of my favorite episodes so far is when you had Gary Sinise on, and I just found it fascinating listening to him talk like he was a 12-year-old boy, and his love for the Cubs and all things Chicago baseball. My question to you is, who has been your favorite guest to interview?
Now, I'm not going to say that. They're all my favorites. It's like picking a favorite kid. I will tell you, I really enjoyed moments like I'll tell you a funny story about Gary Sinise, is that we film at Universal Studios in Hollywood, and we film at a restaurant that is right next to the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. And so as we're leaving the studio and going down the escalator, I said to Gary, hey, let's go into Bubba Gump and demand free food and just see what they say, because you are, after all, Lieutenant Dan. And Gary's like, I don't know if that's such a good idea. I might, my agent might hear about that. But I really enjoyed talking to Gary. I like talking to Gary Cole a lot because I'm a big fan of Office Space, and I think Gary Cole was hilarious in Pineapple Express as the villain. I like Bonnie Hunt. Her and I really vibed really well. And I will tell you, I really enjoyed talking to James Belushi, specifically about Tupac. So, there's kind of nuances I have with everybody. And, I will tell you one more thing. I really like talking to Bob Odenkirk about being on Better Call Saul and about being on Breaking Bad, and kind of what the way the culture's translated in Breaking Bad as far as the Salamanca family and the American characters. So kind of favorite moments here and there. I really can't pick a favorite, but I have favorite questions and favorite moments from episodes of different guests.
So then who haven't you had on that you would kill to interview?
Well, I'll tell you, here's the reality is that Joe Montana is my executive producer, and everybody kind of knows him. So he's been in everything. He was in a movie called Body of Evidence with Madonna. So he knows Madonna, and he was in Suspect with Cher, not to mention being friends with all these people. So he knows everybody, and just, they will come on when he asks because he's their friend. And so I'm really not trying to dodge that or sound, like I've got the world on a string, Sinatra, but in essence, we're really getting everybody. So You know who I really look forward to having? I can't wait to have, because I was in love with her, Jamie Gertz. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, of course.
She was in that, and she was in Less Than Zero. She's from Chicago, and actually the guy she's married to owns part of the Atlanta Hawks basketball team. So and she's in 16 Candles. She's one of the girls that helps the prom queen cut her hair at the party. So she's been around for, a long time. And, back when I knew Shane in 1987, she was, I had a crush. So there you have it. The Jamie Gertz, I would say.
Before we got together today, Brigham and I were on the phone talking, preparing for this just to make sure we have the timing right and everything. And he mentioned the 86 Flames.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a really brutal time to be a Flames fan, like really brutal. And it was really hard to be a Flames fan during that time because the Oilers in Edmonton,
orange and blue bullies,
were massive. They were trouncing everybody, not just in Alberta, of course, or out in the West Coast, but everywhere with Gretzky, Curry, Messier, and Fuhr. I mean, it was a really dark time for Calgary, right?
Even that piece of crap, Randy Gregg, Doctor on the Ice, number 21.
And then 1989 comes around, and the Flames win it. And Lanny retires, and that was really awesome. And that team of Calgary were the only team to win the Stanley Cup in Montreal on Canadians' ice ever. That was pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about 86 for a minute. You mentioned 86. 86 is the Steve Smith miracle year when he scored a goal against his own team. And that was an amazing year because if you remember, during the end of that year, the Flames beat the crap out of the Oilers 9-3, April of 86. That kind of set the tone for them going into that 7-game series, and they beat them, and then they went all the way. And it was really Patrick Waugh, one of the most amazing and still underrated postseasons and series of all time in that 86 final, because the Flames were hot offensively. And the game we went to, Shane, in game one, they scored 7 goals. And Joel Otto and Nieuwendyk, I don't think Nieuwendyk was on that team, but they were hot up. Hook and Lube, they were really hot. Gary Suter, Al McInnes, they were scoring a lot of goals. Then Patrick Waugh just closed the pipes. And, they won the next game, I think, 3-2. And then the other ones, he just dominated. But the Flames had that. They had them, and they were winning game 2. And if they win game 2, I think they win that 86 final. So the Flames really were a hell of a David to the Goliath that were the Oilers in 86 and then ultimately in 89 when they won everything.
And between 86 and 89, when the Flames won the Cup in Montreal, It was all Oilers. It was the Oilers Stanley Cup in 87 and the Oilers Stanley Cup in 88, because my father-in-law reminds me of that every time I see him.
Yeah.
And we were in England in the summer of 88, where we had read the news from England that Gretzky had been traded to LA and to the Kings. And it was like, oh my God, that was unbelievable. And there was a breakthrough. There seemed to be a feeling of a breakthrough with the Flames and in Calgary, that there could be an opportunity to, continue and try to win the Cup, which is what they did. But when I look back at that series, well, the 4 series really, but with the first series against Vancouver, if it wasn't for Joel Otto's tip into the net in overtime in Game 7 of that first series against the Canucks, there wouldn't have been a championship. And then you look at Mike Vernon, and he stood on his head the entire time. That team was really on fire, and they were really pushing for the end. And then Game 6 in Montreal, the 25th of May, 1989, I remember that clearly.
Oh, yeah.
The whole city of Calgary exploded. Just fucking exploded.
Yeah. Electric Ave, Coconut Joe's, 3 Cheers, the Fox and Firkin.
The city of Calgary had not seen a championship of that magnitude in a long, long time. The Stampeders won the Grey Cup in 1971, but they were very non-competitive for all the 70s and the 80s after that. And then the Flames come to town, and they start building, and they started getting some type of semblance of winning in order. It took a little while, but when they got going, it was really amazing. And then they won the Stanley Cup in 1989. Subsequently, nothing since then. And then we have the Raptors in Toronto here. And when they won the championship a few years ago, this city was in meltdown mode. I think there was 1 million people downtown in Toronto. I think you were at the parade.
Mm-hmm, I was.
Yeah, and it was like a circus, right? And so we look at Chicago and the Cubs.
Yeah.
And they had been waiting for a long, long, long time for a championship. There was a lot of drama along the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and so on. And so 2016 comes around, and they were stacked.
Uh-huh.
The team was stacked. They were ready to win. The city was ready to win. And there was a lot of bated breath throughout the playoffs. Like, oh, are they going to make it? Are they going to actually pull this around? And then they did. And that must have been amazing. Did you feel like they were going to win that year? Did you feel that the building of the excitement and the energy that they were going to actually take this home?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they had to go through everything in order to exercise the demon. It had to be in Game 7. There had to be a 13-minute rain delay. They were down 3-1 coming back. They had a 12% chance to win the World Series at that moment when they were trailing 3-1. And everything, just the 12, just like the Flames in 89. Vancouver, if you watch that series, Shane, the first series, Vancouver had every chance to win that. Mike Vernon, it's a miracle, that they didn't lose in round 1 to the Canucks. So it took everything. And then, everything that it just put you through to do that, to exercise those demons. So I felt the Cubs were very ready in 2016. Yes.
And now Houston's on a run. They won last year and they won a few years ago too. They're pretty stacked and they got a good momentum going. Who do you see winning this year? Who's betting on that's going to take the whole championship this year?
It's going to be really hard to beat the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves are stacked and they're pretty amazing. I think the Tampa Rays are really, really good as well. I think that it's going to be kind of Tampa and Atlanta look like they're great, off to great starts. But, I really don't like to talk about anything until about Memorial Day or the end of, you call it, I believe, May long weekend, because then you'll really know. You'll be about 35, 40 games in. You'll kind of know who can make a run and who can't. And I look for, obviously, Atlanta and Tampa are off to great starts. I think it's going to be hard for somebody to stop Tampa. They're off to such a good start. But I like to really talk about that around Memorial Day because you have a good basis of information to discuss, a nice foundation of games played. So you have a good a size sample to make judgments from.
So Brigham, you really led an interesting life and you haven't necessarily followed a conventional path.
Right. Well, I would say as far as my family, I would say entertainment and communications, but certainly forged and made my own path and my own nuance to working in this world.
What would you say, looking back, was one of the most pivotal decision points in your life, whether it be a piece of feedback or an event that really contributed to who you've become?
Yeah, I would think that really, I will tell you this. It's coming to work here at Disneyland and just learning and being around all those beautiful people and embracing people and really just being here as a young guy in Los Angeles and really seeing, and obviously coming from where I came from, I think the combination of those things kind of really made me believe and really understood that I could, I just love this environment. I love being here and I love working in this industry. So I think just the passion when I first came here kind of, I would say was revealed to myself in many ways.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
I mean, I would say that really, anybody tells you that to don't quit, I would say, and there's been lots of people that have said that to me. So I would say, don't quit and be yourself. Keep going is really the essence of all that. I've heard that from a lot of people. I would say the example of Michael Jordan talking about embracing the failure of missed shots in that commercial is a big part of what I believe and what but I would say that don't quit. And I've heard that from several different people.
Okay. So what I'm wondering is, knowing that you are from Shane's past, what's one of your favorite Shane moments?
Oh boy. I would say just working with him and knowing and just going to game 1 of the 86 Stanley Cup Finals and enjoying that moment together and just seeing what was happening with the Flames and what they were building and, all that, I would say. And that, being that game 1 against Montreal in, I guess, the end of May 1986. That would be that for myself.
We are coming to the end of our interview with you.
Okay.
And we're so grateful that you've been able to spend the time with us. We have this thing called Rapid Fire that we ask all of our guests. So if you're ready, are you ready for this? It's just a few questions and just fire them along as you feel fit. Does that make sense? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready to rip it, buddy.
And Brigham, these are like Gen X questions. Okay, so question number 1 is KFC or McDonald's?
Oh, KFC for sure. It's so good when it's good.
TV time. MASH or Hill Street Blues?
Hill Street Blues, absolutely. The guy that growled Mick made that for me. And the theme.
That song is so great.
Well, it's Larry Carlton. Larry Carlton's music is just
amazing.
Fucking great.
Yep. Dun, dun, dun. Mm-hmm.
Roller rink or arcade?
I'm sorry, what?
Roller rink or arcade?
For sure, arcade for sure. Roller rink, it just not a big fan after a while. But the arcade, that's where Pac-Man was. So definitely arcade.
Good Gen X movies. Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi?
Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars is the original. There's parts of Star Wars, like the end when they get the medals and the chemistry is good. But Empire Strikes Back is so good because of the chemistry of Princess Leia and Han Solo. Very Howard Hawks. And when, you know what I mean? When she calls him a scoundrel and she says, I want nice men. And he goes, I'm nice men. That's hilarious. And she says, I'd rather kiss a Wookiee. That can be arranged. You can't make that anywhere. So the chemistry of Carrie Fisher, rest in peace, and Harrison Ford is undeniable. And that's what makes Empire Strikes Back number one.
Duran Duran or Styx?
Oh, Duran Duran for sure. They were my first favorite band. And Duran Duran had a bunch of beautiful women that they call themselves Duranies. So they had their own hot chick following. So New Moon on Monday is just undeniable as far as anything. So just off the top of my head, Duran Duran for sure, because it's sentimental. But Styx is also good. I give him credit.
Do you like a bike or do you like a skateboard?
Bike. I'd much rather bike.
Okay, final question. Sunrise or sunset?
I think I'm a sunrise guy because I like watching that because everything's starting again. And it means you get another chance to get it right.
There you go, Brigham. There you go. Easy peasy. See how easy that was?
That was perfect. It was wonderful. Loved it.
Well, thanks for your time, Brigham. Really appreciate it. Miss you tons, man. Miss you lots.
I miss you too. We'll talk more soon for sure. Okay?
Thank you, Brigham. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great.
Have a good day. Be well.
Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Brigham Avery.
Well, isn't he a firecracker?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's no doubt why he has accomplished so much.
No doubt.
He just runs on 10.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Very well-spoken person, too.
I hadn't seen his face in forever and forever and forever. So, and you're friends on Facebook or you're friends on Instagram, but you don't really get to connect so much. You just see pictures and updates and that kind of thing. But to really spend some time with him, it's really wonderful, right?
Yeah. You know what this kind of triggered for me is I think we need to do a future podcast episode focusing on Gen X sports moments.
Okay.
I think that'd be fun. And I know that we have a fellow podcast team.
Yes.
That called I Love You in Sports, I think it's called.
That's right.
Maybe we can team up with them in a future episode.
That would be fun.
I think that'd be great.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Another episode in the books. Wasn't that fun?
It was great. I learned a lot.
I'm glad he didn't say much about me being a bad boy.
I don't think you were a bad boy.
I may have had my moments. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe.
I wasn't rambunctious. I wasn't a bad boy.
All right, bad boy. What are we going to do today?
Let's get some food.
Let's go get some brunch.
Yeah, I'm pretty hungry.
Let's do that.
I'm hungry. I'm looking.
What are you hungry for? Pancakes, waffles, or eggs?
Denny's. This portion of today's broadcasting is brought to you by Denny's. If they can support us, we will keep saying this over and over and over again.
Okay.
Come to Denny's.
Can I just say about Denny's, if anybody has gone to Denny's, and I don't remember this from when I was growing up.
Who hasn't gone to Denny's?
I don't know, but they have so many plates.
Oh, yeah.
Like you order one breakfast and it comes on 7 plates.
Right.
For God's sake.
Yeah, the dishwasher there must be just on suicide watch.
Yeah.
Right? It's really bad there. But anyway.
And now they have a robot kitty that brings you the food.
Well, at the one that we go to, not all of them.
She's a kitty.
A robot kitty, yeah.
What was her name?
I don't remember.
But it's literally a little robot that brings all the food.
Interesting.
So let's go do that.
Okay, I could eat. Simon wants to eat. He always wants to eat our food, too. I don't know what the hell. Okay.
Well, I wasn't sure I invited Simon.
Oh, burn. Okay, well, let's pack this up and go get some food. A special thanks to Brigham Avery, our special guest today from Los Angeles, California.
Catch his show, Hollywood and Ivy.
That's right. And Under the Golden Dome, don't forget that, too. Thanks to Simon in the booth. Thanks to the people at Audacity for helping us along the way. Cindy Lynn, thanks for spending another moment talking with me. Spending time with me, dear.
Oh, Shay Bear, I love you to death.
To death.
You are my favorite old man.
I'd rather you say I'd love you to life than love you to death.
I love you to further adventures.
Okay.
Okay.
That works.
All right.
You're listening to
Hooked on life.
If you enjoyed this episode of Hooked on Life and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe to our channel. We would also love to hear from you. If you have any ideas for future Hooked on Life podcasts, feel free to drop us a line. You can stay up to date with Cindy and Shane by following them on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, don't worry about tonight's sunset, because there will always be one tomorrow. See ya!